Melos redirects here. For the Japanese short story, Sea Run, Melos. Milos or Melos is a volcanic Greek island in the Aegean Sea, just north of the Sea of Crete. Milos is the southwesternmost island in the Cyclades group. The island is famous for the statue of Aphrodite, and also for statues of the Greek god Asclepius and the Poseidon and an archaic Apollo in Athens. The municipality of Milos also includes the uninhabited offshore islands of Milos and Cyclades. The combined land area is 160.147 square kilometers and the 2001 census population was 4,977 inhabitants. History. Obsidian from Milos was a commodity as early as 15,000 years ago. Natural glass from Milos was transported over long distances and used for razor-sharp stone tools well before farming began, and later, there is no early farming village in the Near East that doesn't get obsidian. However, the mining of obsidian did not lead to the development of permanent habitation or manufacturing on the island. Instead, those in search of obsidian arrived by boat, beaching it in a suitable cove and cutting pieces of the volcanic glass from the quarries. The position of Milos, between mainland Greece and Crete, and its possession of obsidian, made it an important center of early Aegean civilization. Milos lost its arms-making importance when bronze became the preferred material for the manufacture of weapons. The first settlement at Phylakope arose in the Bronze Age, flourishing as the extraction of obsidian was in the decline. The first settlers were tuna fishermen. Lying on the northeast coast, excavations by the British School of Archaeology revealed a town wall and a Minoan-inspired structure, dubbed the Pillar Room, which contained fragments of vivid wall paintings. The famous fresco of the flying fish was found in the ruins of the Pillar Room and was executed with delicate coloring and graphic observation of nature and the graceful movement of a fish. Stylistic similarities to Minoan frescoes are suggested, and it could perhaps have been the work of a Cretan artist. Part of the site has been washed away by the sea. The antiquities found at the site covered three major periods, from the early Cycladic period to the Mycenaean period, Mycenaean Age of Greece. At the site much pottery was excavated, with several changing styles and influences over the site's long occupation. In the early occupation of the site, there are many similarities and imports from other Cycladic islands, and the settlement was very small. During the Middle Bronze Age, however, the site expanded significantly, and the expansion of Minoan Crete saw an influx of Minoan pottery into the Cyclades, particularly at Acroterion Thera, though much found its way to Phylakope. The quantities found at the Cycladic sites have been taken to suggest a Minoan control over the region, though it could also be the consumptive nature of the islanders adopting Cretan fashions. There is more than just pottery at Phylakope, however. The eruption of the Thera volcano saw a reduction in Minoan presence in the Cyclades, and it is at this time that Mycenaean involvement on the islands increases. At Phylakope, a megaron structure, which is typically associated with the Mycenaean palaces, such as those at Tiryns, Pylos and Mycenae, has been discovered. This has been taken to suggest that the Mycenaeans conquered the settlement and installed a seat of power for a governor. The evidence is not clear, though again it could be a legacy of the islanders adopting foreign elements into their culture. Particularly unexpected was the discovery in the 1970s of a shrine at the site, which contained many examples of Aegean figurines, including the famous Lady of Phylakope. The shrine is unprecedented in the Bronze Age Cyclades and has provided a valuable insight into the beliefs and rituals of the inhabitants of Phylakope. The site was eventually abandoned and was never reoccupied. In historical times, the island was occupied by Dorians from Laconia. In the 6th century BC, it again produced a remarkable series of vases, of large size, with mythological subjects and orientalizing ornamentation, and also a series of terracotta reliefs. Conflict with Athens. The Greek historian Thucydides wrote in his history of the Peloponnesian War of how, in 416 BC, Athens attacked Milos for refusing to submit tribute and refusing to join Athens' alliance against Sparta. The invasion of Melos occurred during the second phase of the Peloponnesian War. The Melians claimed Spartan descent but had remained neutral throughout this conflict. In 426 BC, Athens had prosecuted a brief perfunctory operation on the island but had withdrawn quickly because they were at the time involved in open conflict with Sparta. In 425 BC Athens claimed suzerainty over Milos and had demanded tribute. The second attack on Milos occurred 5 years after Athens and Sparta had signed a peace agreement, and some historians like Bosworth believe that Athens' campaign against Milos in 416 BC was motivated by imperial expansion. In the summer of 416 BC the Athenians landed an army of over 3,000 soldiers on the island, led by the generals Cleomedes and Tysilos. They sent diplomats to negotiate a surrender, offering to spare the Melians if they joined the Athenian-dominated Delian League and pay tribute to Athens. The Melians rejected the ultimatum. The Athenians laid siege to the city and withdrew most of their troops from the island to fight elsewhere. For months the Melians withstood the siege, but with reinforcements from Athens and the help of traitors within Milos, the Athenians took the city that winter. The Athenians executed all the adult men they caught, and sold the women and children into slavery. They then settled 500 of their own colonists on the island. The next year, the Athenian tragedian Euripides wrote Trojan Women, which explored the hardships of conquest on women, set in the legendary past of the Trojan War. In 405 BC, with Athens losing the war, the Spartan general Lysander expelled the Athenian settlers from Melos and restored the survivors of the original Spartan colony to the island. Medieval period. During the Frankish period the island formed part of the Duchy of Naxos, except for the few years when it was a separate lordship under Marco Sanudo and his daughter. In 1566 the Venetians handed over the island to the Ottoman Turks, who were to rule it until 1830, when it was incorporated into the newly formed Greek state. Geography. Milos is the southwesternmost island in the Cyclades, 120 kilometers due east from the coast of Laconia. From east to west it measures about 23 kilometers, from north to south 13 kilometers, and its area is estimated at 151 square kilometers. The greater portion is rugged and hilly, culminating in Mount Prophytus Elias 748 meters in the west. Like the rest of the cluster, the island is of volcanic origin, with tuff, trachyte and obsidian among its ordinary rocks. The natural harbor is the hollow of the principal crater, which, with a depth diminishing from 70 to 30 fathoms, strikes in from the northwest so as to separate the island into two fairly equal portions, with an isthmus not more than 18 kilometers broad. In one of the caves on the south coast, the heat from the volcano is still great, and on the eastern shore of the harbor, there are hot sulfur springs. Antimelos or Antimelos, 13 miles northwest of Milos, is an uninhabited mass of trachyte, often called Erymomelos. Kymelos, or Argentiera, 1.6 kilometers to the northeast, was famous in antiquity for its figs and fuller's earth, and contained a considerable city, the remains of which cover the cliff of St. Andrews. Polyaios lies 2 kilometers southeast of Kymelos. It was the subject of dispute between the Melians and Comolians. It is now uninhabited. The harbour town is Adamantas. From this there is an ascent to the plateau above the harbour, on which are situated Pleka, the chief town, and Castro, rising on a hill above it, and other villages. The ancient town of Milos was nearer to the entrance of the harbour than Adamas, and occupied the slope between the village of Tripoti and the landing place at Clima. Here is a theatre of Roman date and some remains of town walls and other buildings, one with a fine mosaic excavated by the British School at Athens in 1896. Numerous fine works of art have been found on this site, notably the Aphrodite in Paris, the Asclepius in London, and the Poseidon and the archaic Apollo in Athens. Other villages include Triovassalos, Pera and Triovassalos, Polonia and Saphiria. Climate. Milos has a Mediterranean climate with mild, rainy winters and warm to hot dry summers. Natural resources. Bentonite, perlite, pozzolana and small quantities of kaolin are actively collected via strip mine or open pit mine techniques in Milos and sold all over the world. In the past, barite, sulfur, millstones and gypsum were also mined. In fact, Pliny notes that Milos was the most abundant source of sulfur in the ancient world. In ancient times the alum of Milos was reckoned next to that of Egypt. The Melian earth was employed as a pigment by ancient artists. Milos was a source of obsidian during the Neolithic ages for the Aegean and Mediterranean. Orange, olive, cypress, tamarisk, juniper and arbutus trees grow throughout the island, which, however, is too dry to have any profusion of vegetation. Vines, cotton and barley are the main crops. Beaches. There are about 70 beaches on Milos Island. Hivadelimni Beach is the longest at about 1 kilometer. The rest of the beaches are starting from Sarakiniko Beach, Papaphagas, Kapros, Pashina, Alogomantra, Konstantinos, Metakas, Mantrakia, Phiropotamos, Nerodafni, Lakida, Plavina, Forkovini, Areti, Polonia, Gauarado and Philokopi Phiroplaka, Pilayokari, Provatas, Sagrado, Agiokiriaki, Saravalada, Kluftico, Gerontas, Jericas, Agios Sostis, Muchliatai, Katago, Spithi, Fligos, Pyalothus, Kalamos, Crotaraki, Psathi, Sphrina and Sakilari Agios Ioannis, Cave of Sikia, Agathia, Triads and Amaldaraki Vaudia, Thalassa, Paliorema, Triapagidia and Thiophos Hivadelimni, Largada, Papakino, Faturena, Clima, Scanopi and Patricia. The north and south and bay beaches are tourist attractions. The east beaches are very quiet, and those to the west are also quiet beaches. Demographics. Historical population equals. Notable people, Diagoras, a philosopher, Melanippides, poet, Antonio Milo, captain and cartographer, Antonio Vasilaki, a painter. Sister Island, Shardu Island, Japan. Gallery. See also, Aegean Islands, List of Aegean Islands, Sarakiniko Beach, Phiroplaka, Milos Island National Airport, Antimelos, Kimelos, Arcaudias, The Catacombs of Milos. References. Bibliography, Renfrew, Colin. Egstaff, Malcolm, eds. An Island Polity, The Archaeology of Exploitation in Melos. Cambridge University Press. ISBN 0-521-23785-8. David Abulafia. The Great Sea, A Human History of the Mediterranean. Penguin Books. ISBN 978-0-14-196999-2. Sources. External links, official website.